Access 2007, external data. Well, the time has come to take information from outside of Excel and bring it in, or to export it from Excel out into all the many applications. Predominantly, they're Microsoft applications, but you'll see there's a few other ones as well. If you have a database with all sorts of addressing information, it's a fantastic way to create a mail merge. So, in essence, your data source is in Access, already created, already labeled with field names, and your mail merge document is in Word. So with just a few button clicks, you can take that data from Access and display it in Word in a very nice form letter or even an email in Outlook. Speaking of emails, you can send emails out informing people of information, but even cooler than that, you can receive emails back from your users with data that will go right on into your tables. Yes, you can collect data from people via an Outlook email. Now, I mentioned it's not only Microsoft that we'll be working with. You can also send information out to a PDF. That's an Adobe file. It will be a read-only way that you can email your reports out to various people, maybe business partners, for example. And XPS is a new file format here in our Microsoft Office products. It takes XML and turns it into a page format so that it will hold all the data as it looks within Access, but your users will be able to see it over the web or more than likely via an email. I have our Access database open. We're in our Zoo database. We are going to be on this external data ribbon the whole entire time. We'll start with imports because those are on the far left corner of this external data ribbon. I don't have any saved imports yet, but if I find that I'm doing the same import over and over and over again, as far as my business process goes, why not save it and then reuse it, and I'll have fewer dialog boxes to have to fill in. No doubt you can import information from a different Access database. I could bring in a table, a query, a form report, macros, anything. I am going to use Excel though. So when I click on Excel, first it says, well, what do you want to import? I'll browse out to that, and I have actually a memberships file here that's in the .xlsx. That's the new 2007 Excel format. They put X's at the end of all your familiar file extensions. Memberships. I can import this into a new table. I can append it into a table that already exists, but I'd like to link the data because this is something that may be new to you, the idea behind this. Linking is when I know that a lot of people are still using this Excel spreadsheet, and to simplify my import operations, if I link it, I see their data once they update it, so I always have the most recent data here in my Access file. The limitation is it's read-only. So if you are going to want to use that data and incorporate it and make changes to it, then you should probably import the data, though you may have to do the import on a weekly basis or some sort of batch import so that you can always be bringing in that new information from Excel. I'll choose OK. How do I want this to appear? Well, my Excel spreadsheet has the very first row with what would make sense to be my field name. So I do want my first row to contain the column headings. If I remove the check mark, that first row will be an actual record of data, and that is not what I want. I'll choose Next. What would I like to call this? Memberships, but I'm going to put spreadsheet at the end of that. It's not necessary to type spreadsheet in there. If you do, you should probably spell it correctly, but I want to differentiate it from my memberships table that already exists. I'll choose Finish, and it says, hey, I'm done. I linked it. Okay, thank you. The reason why I didn't have to type spreadsheet is because it's obvious that this is Excel. When I hover over it, it tells me the location of that source file, and this little arrow indicates that it's linked. If I had imported this as a table, it would have your typical Access table icon with whatever it was that I called it. Now, when you import data from Excel into Access as a table, you still want to go into Design View and maybe change some of the data types and definitely change the properties because it's just going to import it in with the defaults. When I open this up, you'll see it does open in Access, not in Excel, and here is my basic information. I can't select this and make a change. It is read only. I'm going to close this and let's continue on with import. SharePoint 2007 is something that Microsoft really wants you to take advantage of as far as your other Office products go. You need to have a SharePoint server that goes on probably Windows 2003 as the operating system. That's the most recent one at this point in time. And SharePoint servers are something you have to install. You're going to have to work with permissions, and you're going to have to make sure that all the computers in your network that you want to be able to access SharePoint can do so. We are not going to actually work with SharePoint here, but I'm going to tell you what you need to know. The data that's held on a SharePoint server is meant for collaboration. You might have contact lists out there. You might have orders. You might have product specifications. You can have anything out there, and it's meant to be kind of a web portal so that people can collaborate, can gather information, can make changes. So if there's a list out on SharePoint, like your contact list, you can import that into Access, and then it would be a piece of your Access database that you could run reports off of, for example, and manipulate and work with, importing. And then once you're done, or if you have something in your Access database that you think would make sense for people to use up on SharePoint, then you'd move over to the right here and you would choose Move to SharePoint. If you chose Move to SharePoint, you'd have to know the name of your SharePoint server, where this is going to be linking to. And then once it's up there, you could synchronize every day or once a week so that your Access database information is refreshed up on that SharePoint server so everybody has the most up-to-date information. All of these items have to do with SharePoint lists. And again, that's another product that needs to go on a server in order for your Access database to be available via SharePoint for all of the users within your corporation, that you choose at least. Still working in the import area, we could import right from a text file. If you have something that's a comma separated value, for example, text delimited, you could bring that in. It's the same process as importing from Excel. Choose cancel. You could also import here from an XML file. XML is a way that data is labeled, like a first name, the data, and then you have a closing first name tag at the end of it. It's similar to HTML, except HTML is really for laying out your data, the format over the web, and XML is really for labeling and saying this data is this type of data. So you could bring in XML into Access. You also have an option of importing from any other ODBC database. An ODBC compliant database could be an Oracle database or a MySQL database or even a SQL database. We could bring in from an HTML document. That would make sense for a report, perhaps. From an Outlook folder, maybe a contacts folder you'd like to bring in as an Access table. And then you have DBase, Paradox, and Lotus 123, which are just other vendors of databases. If I were to have saved the information when I imported it, I can go to Saved Imports, and I would just select the import, choose Run, or make it a task to remind myself, oh, every Monday I need to do this import. And then you would have that information in your Access database. If I wanted to export information, like perhaps my animals, or actually, let's export our totals design into Excel. We simply select that and click Excel, or we could export it to a SharePoint list. If I choose Excel, we are going to choose where we're going to send it. Then what file format? Do we want Excel 2007, or are some people going to be using Excel 2003? Notice the difference in the file extension that we have here. Export data with formatting and layout, and open the destination file just to make sure it worked. I'll choose OK, and here it is. It was a very small table, so this is all we got. But look, it did open it up in Excel in compatibility mode instead of the full Office 2007 Excel mode. I'll click Close. I could save my export steps, save as Export Totals Design. I could create an Outlook task, save export. Now when I go to Saved Exports, I have it here as a choice. I could always delete that. And again, we're in that same dialog box where the saved imports existed. I'll choose Close. Similarly to your import choices, you can export to Word, to a text file, or one of these other items. Let's go ahead and export or merge it with Microsoft Office Word. When I make this choice, actually, let me cancel that and make sure I have the right data source selected first. Memberships is where I have all of my last name, first name, street address for all of my Find members. So I have that selected. Now I'm going to export that to Microsoft Office Word. Do I want to link my data or create a new document, then link the data to it? So do I have a mail merge file in Word already, or am I creating a new one? I'll create a new one. Okay, so here is Word, and it's thrown us into our mailings ribbon here. This is not a course on Word, but if you're going to be doing these mail merges, you might as well feel a little bit comfortable with what we're doing here. I want to use the address block. So it's telling me, okay, I'm grabbing this from Access. How do you want the address block to look? Looks good to me, postal address. Format the address according to the country or the region. We're in the United States, so that looks good for us. Okay, that shows up as my address block. I'll hit Enter. Insert another, actually a greetings line. It's going to say, Dear, first name, last name. And it's going to have a comma after that. I could choose instead of Dear to Dear Sir or Madam. If I don't have a recipient name, if there's no data in there, it'll figure it out and put Sir or Madam. I'll choose OK. And now I'll just write a brief letter. Thank you for your membership. We value your business with us. Regards. I don't have time to run spell check, huh? Regards, Zoo. So this is my base letter. If I wanted to preview the results with the actual data, that would view my merged data. So here's my addressing information. Here is my greetings line for record 1. I can go to the next record and I see I've got Mark Fenner and Jim Dubois and Alistair Banks. I could also finish this and merge it, and then that would send it right out to the printer, or I could do this in email. Also, if I wanted to send out a mass email and I had the email addresses in my source. Okay, this again is not a class on Word. I just wanted you to see that in a mail merge you have your base letter that's made up of fields, and the fields are tied to your data source, in this case, Access. I'm going to close this. Do I want to save changes? No. I can also collect data using an email. See how it has the picture of the envelope? Outlook is the email product that comes with your Office suite. So you do have to have Outlook installed on your computer, and it has to be tied to an email account, probably the Exchange server in your company's environment, or if you're a home user, you set up Outlook on your own and determine your email address. It might be a Hotmail account. It might be an account with your internet service provider, but you have to know what that is, and Outlook has to be configured. If I'd like to create an email, I can click on that, but I'd also like to show you that I can right-click here, and I can choose Collect and Update via email. Notice I also have Import and Export as my choices here. Collect and Update via email. Now it's a wizard. Collect data through email messages. I need to choose the type of data entry, whether to collect new data or update existing data. What do I want to collect? Do I want it to be automatically processed and added to the database? How do I want to specify who I'm emailing this to? And do I want to review the list of recipients and send email messages with those data entry forms? Do I want to let them know what the point of this email is? Next, well, how will my form look? HTML or Microsoft Office info path? Info path is something that comes with Microsoft Office, and you have to have it installed, and the user has to have that installed as well. I'm going to go with an HTML form because you can't really go wrong with HTML these days. Next, do I want to collect only, or am I going to also update information? Collect, recipients fill out that blank form. It's collected and appended to the database. Update, means they're actually seeing information like, hey, I have this record and price listed for this product. Is that accurate? Can you please update that for me? You can use this option only if the recipient's email addresses are stored in the database. So if you have existing contacts, that will work. Hey, is your contact number still the same? Great, thank you. I'll choose next. Here I'm choosing the fields that will be used in that form. So I can choose last name, first name, street address, city, state, zip, and how about membership fee? And what do I want it to look like in the field in the email message? Maybe I don't want that space there, but I like that space there. So it's pretty smart, and it realizes, you know what? There should be a space. It should look a little bit better. Do I want this to be read-only, and then they're just going to have to reply back and say, yeah, make this change? No, I don't want it to be read-only. I'll choose next. Now the replies are going to be stored in the Access data collection replies in my Microsoft Office Outlook mailbox. I'm going to have to go back there and look for them to have them automatically processed when they arrive in my mailbox and the data added to my database. I can click this check mark. So you have to make that distinction. Do you trust this data just blindly going into your source data? Or do you want to have the extra work of going into your Microsoft Office Outlook mailbox, verifying, and then updating the information? It's up to you. I'll choose next. Enter the email addresses myself or use the email addresses that are stored in the database. Boy, I wish I would have put email addresses in my database, although they're all fake people and they probably wouldn't have been happy receiving these if there are some real people that actually have the same name as my fake people. I'll enter them on my own and choose next. Subject, add membership table form. All right, introduction, fill out the form included in this message and send it back to me. All right, please. So you can edit this. Next, to see the email status, click the External Data tab and then click Manage Replies. Awesome. I'll choose Create. And here it is. So this is Outlook. This is a new email message because I said I wanted to add the to in the field there. So to what, Mark Morris, I guess his name was Morris Jones or something. Anyway, there's my subject. I could make a change. I could change the font. I could change the format. And it was sent off. That disappeared. It's out of my way now, and I can wait for those replies to come back. Again, I could either open up Outlook and take a look in that folder, or I can just take a look at my database and see what happened. When I click Manage Replies, it shows me I have sent a couple of these out, the message type, and where in Outlook they're going to come back. Just in case you forget, you can see it right here. I could also delete this message if I wanted to, and it's saying the settings of these email messages must be synchronized. Click Synchronize Now. This is telling me the fields that are included in one of my messages, and this is the fields. These are the fields that are included in my memberships messages here. Tells me when it was created, if I'm automatically processing them or not, but I can go back into options here and choose to automatically process. Maybe I changed my mind. I can remove that check mark. I could accept multiple replies from each recipient. Your database has to make sense for you to accept multiple replies and allow multiple rows per replies. Is there a stop time? Maybe these people are allowed to give me updates until 3 days from now, but my work is due in 4 days, so I don't even care if they send me those responses within those 3 days. I'll click Cancel. So the point here is, yes, you can manage your messages here. You can create the email as well by clicking on that button, but it has to make sense in the workplace in order for you to send this out. If you have forms set up and all your users have a database application where they launch those forms and they make those changes, then that very well might be the better way to go when you're trying to update your tables. You can also export to a PDF or an XPS file. Let's say we have our memberships and we would like to email this out to everyone in a read-only format. We can click this PDF or XPS, choose where you're going to save that. It's stored as a PDF, the Save As type, and it's called Memberships. And yes, I'll open the file after publishing. I'm going to click Publish now. And the key here is I have Adobe Acrobat Reader installed. You have to have at least Reader in order to see this information. Of course, if you have anything more robust than Reader, then you can even do more with that document. But I could work with Adobe and make sure that nobody can make these changes. Then it would be read only. So here it is. It's the table. I'm going to click the X there, and I'm going to click Close for those steps. Now I exported a table, well, a query, but you can also export reports, which might make more sense. Let's use the XPS export now. We've got food orders grouped. It's the same button, but here in the Save As dialog box, or the Publish dialog box, my Save As type needs to be XPS. XPS is new. This is what it stands for, XML Paper Specification. XML Paper Specification. And the value here is you can take all your formatting as it appears in Access or Word or Excel, whatever program you're in, PowerPoint even, and it's going to publish that as it looks on your PC. So even if somebody else doesn't have the same font, the same colors, something like that installed on their computer, they can still see your document exactly how you want it to appear. So I'm going to choose this, Open File After Publishing, and I'll choose Publish. And it's going to set up in my browser. So your users, in order to read this, don't have to have anything but the Internet Explorer browser, and they have to have the XPS add-ins installed in order to be able to read this information. So I'm in the browser, but this is my report from my Access database. Notice how it looks exactly the same. I didn't open it up in this nugget, but we did create it in a previous nugget. There's this brown color, this blue color. All the font is exactly how it exists. And they could save a copy from here. They could take a look at the digital signatures just to make sure it's coming from someone who is trusted. I'll click X. I'll click Close. I just want to show you the same report, but in HTML format. So here I can export to an HTML document. Open the destination, OK. Oops, it already exists. Yes, I want to overwrite it. OK, I'll go with the default encoding. It's going through each page one by one. And notice it's the same data as before, however, the formatting's gone. So hopefully this helps to demonstrate to you the value of using an XPS document format. It's new because it comes in 2007, the XPS. But as more and more users are installing Access 2007 and the Office 2007 suite, it just might become more popular even than PDF. We'll see. Who knows about that? But this is something that's new, so you might see it on the exam, or you just might come across it in the business world. So it's good to know XML Paper Specification. Okay, so now you know. You can import, you can export, you can work with all types of different products. Just use your external data ribbon for that. What we accomplished in this nugget was importing and linking a spreadsheet. We exported data to a few different data types. We were able to create a mail merge in order to take advantage of all that hard work collecting data in our Access database. Why reinvent the wheel by having to create a source file within Word? Might as well just use Access. You can also use Access as a source for sending out emails, but what was really neat here was that you saw you can actually receive data via email and input that directly into your tables. Again, check out your business processes. That might not be the best way to do it, but at least you know that that's an option. And creating a PDF and XPS file is a great way to send data out of your database to people who might not have the ability to open up that entire Access file and run that report. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.